What's up, everyone? Welcome in to the Golden Sombrero Show. You're listening to this live on either YouTube or what's up, YouTube and BlazeRadioOnline.com. You're listening to the Golden Sombrero Show. I just completely botched that intro.
I knew you were.
Sorry.
I couldn't tell, but I was just like, yeah, you're definitely botching it because I couldn't hear you on the headset.
Yeah, I was wondering why I couldn't hear myself well either. So happens when the people in front of us take a little bit to get out, and then we gotta kind of rush it into.
Hey, it happens to me all the time in the StreamYard where I forget to unmute myself, so it happens.
Yeah. I do that all the time as well. Gonna try and be better about that today.
So we welcome to the Golden Sombrero Show. Dominic Stern, Cole Bradley, Ryan Blank alongside me to talk about labor talks. If we have time, we'll jump into the debate that has been sparked amongst those in Cronkite News and in our apartment about what the hole is between shortstop and third base.
Here we go.
This is right. We'll get into that if we have time, and of course we're going to begin our rankings of all-time players, and we decided to go no active players. We're going to start with first base and third base. That's going to be a lot of fun, but
it will be a good time.
Importantly, the first thing we're going to have to do is talk about the labor talks. There's actually been a lot to talk about.
There really is for once.
But guys, before we get into that, how are we doing? Before we get super mad at the owners.
Doing pretty good. Like you said, a lot to talk about, so that's always something to be excited about. For the good majority of this lockout so far, there hasn't been a whole lot. Whatever information we know, but with the sort of uptick in meetings this week, there's been a lot going on. So
definitely,
yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, today I've actually had a very productive day, gotten a lot of work done, and I'm progressing towards getting a story done for Cronkite News once again, so that's great. But yeah, for once they actually met in person, so there's actually progressions coming. But Dom, I know we're going to get into it, but there was some news that came out late this afternoon that really is going to push them to get something going quick. Yeah. So hopefully it actually means something, but I'm actually very happy to see some progression being made so far.
The needle is being moved slightly, but the big needle is regarding the CBD talks.
Exactly.
We'll obviously talk about that in a little bit. But, the big news today was that Major League Baseball came out and said that if there is no deal made by February 28th, that games will start to get postponed because they want to give the players some time to have spring training. Obviously, rosters need to be completed as well. So there's a lot of progress to go. That's 5 days from now. We're obviously recording on the 23rd. It's going to be a race to the finish line, and it's going to put a lot of pressure on the players. Is basically what that's what's unfolded. The owners they have the leverage here because they can do that, and it's really unfortunate because the players are obviously being harmed as well. It's really us fans who are being just absolutely dragged to the mud because we can't watch baseball. Tickets are still going to cost the same,
if not more.
Yeah,
it will cost more.
Having TV subscriptions that pay or that carry some of these broadcasts, because not all. Are the Chiefs on Bally Sports?
The Chiefs are not on Bally Sports. They're usually on CBS.
Yeah, because NFL TV rights are not TV.
Yep.
So they're on Fox or CBS, and then NBC gets one game a week. ESPN gets.
One game I said the Chiefs. Oh, the Royals. Oh, come on.
Oh, that's why you were looking at me with a confused look. I was like,
I was like,
I was like, you should know this, but yes, the Royals are on Bally Sports.
Yeah, so
Bally Sports KC, Bally Sports Midwest.
Yeah, so
baseball's all the local markets.
Yeah, all three of our teams are on Bally Sports. So if you have a TV provider that doesn't carry Bally Sports, you can't watch baseball, which all of a sudden makes some of those TV deals super expensive for us as fans to pay for.
Yep.
Because also if you're watching in your home team's market or in the market that they're playing, you cannot watch your team's games with an MLB TV subscription. So
that's a whole other conversation.
Don't get me started on that.
It's not cheap to watch baseball is my point. And nothing
unless you have T-Mobile.
Yeah, nothing is going to change for this. So really unfortunate spot we've been putting. Yep. Guys, what are your thoughts on? We'll just start on the 28th deadline. Let's just start there, and then we can dive into some of the details that have been released about these negotiations.
How about Ryan go first? You start with me.
Oh,
Yeah, let's switch it up.
oh, okay. You know what?
I'm calling the plays here.
All right, Andy Reid. Okay, so there's a lot to think about with the news that came out. And Dom, you're right. The owners have the leverage now. It's on the players now to say, do you guys really care about your love of the game and really care about getting the season started on time? And this is a test to them. And I don't know how they're going to react. I really don't, which is scary. They could say, you know what? We're willing to, for all intents and purposes, strike to get what we want, and we won't play. But I'm really hoping it doesn't get to that case. I think that one side has to budge, and it's going to have to be the players, and they're going to have to do it quick. Because we already lost baseball 2 years ago. We lost a lot of the season, about a third. I don't want to lose more baseball, and I know you guys don't either. So I'm going to plea here and say, please, players, please, MLB, get a deal done. I love baseball, and as much as I love college baseball, and as much as it is underrated, I want MLB baseball so bad. So please, figure it out, get it done, so we can have baseball.
Yeah, look, here's the deal. We've talked about it all winter, going on spring now. Yes, the owners have quite a bit of leverage right now. They're putting massive pressure, massive pressure on the Players Association to come forth with something that is appeasing to the owners, which we know so far that has not been the case for either side. And to get this figured out by Monday. In my opinion, does it make the owners look any better? Absolutely not. And I think, yeah, exactly. I think if any, the meetings at a surface level observation, just looking at the meetings that that they're doing in Jupiter right now, they've had talks this week, in person. They've gathered around. Max Scherzer's been there. A bunch of players have been there. All the representatives for MLB and the owners have been there. And as much at a surface level observation as it looks like that would get done or accomplish, it's been pretty futile, as has the rest of this whole negotiating process. It sucks that we are kind of taking this to DEFCON 1, if you will, where it's like we only have such a small window before the impending doom of losing games becomes an actual reality. So they have a lot to figure out in 5 days if they don't want to lose games, both sides. This is where I emphasize what I've been saying every single week, even more. Compromise, gentlemen. Like, figure it out. Let's go. You guys are now on a quite literal, like, ticking clock. Like, now we know this deadline is here. It's right there. It's, oh crap, we got to figure this out. Figure it out. Seriously, like I can't say anything else. Like, this is honestly ridiculous. It's had to get to this point. The owners decided to, put this lockout in place. They could have easily not done that and tried to let the offseason go as it should, proceed moving forward. It was their decision to do this. Would it have been a pretty shaky last couple of months? Maybe, but like, it can't get much worse than what has happened over the last couple of months. The only way it can get worse is if there is not an agreement by Monday and we lose games now. And that's like an actual thing. So figure it out. I want to be optimistic. I'm going to remain optimistic. I really, really hope they can figure something out and they can take something away from this meeting that they've that's going on in Jupiter throughout the rest of the week. I don't know how much longer they're actually there, but like, figure it out. They have to figure out a lot about the whole CBT thing, which is like the most. It's one of, if not the most important, like, subjects related to this whole lockout that they have hardly addressed to this point. So they've got to figure that out in 5 days. Yeah, it sucks, man. It sucked this whole time, but now realizing that nothing has really gotten done this week either. There's been a little bit more negotiation. There's been a little bit more seeing eye to eye, literally and figuratively, on certain issues. But like, they're seriously still so far apart. And it goes back to that whole thing. The owners implemented the lockout. They didn't meet for 40 some days. That was 40 some days you wasted to get even slightly closer than you are now. Who knows how instrumental those 40 some days would have been had they actually used them to their advantage and met and talked about this and figured something out. But we'll never know because they didn't. And yeah, like you said, Dom, it's horrible for the fans too. I mean, all the loyal diehard fans, they're sticking this out. They want baseball. They're waiting, and they're going to continue to wait. And the longer this persists, the more you're stripping that away from the people who have, through thick and thin, supported you, your teams. It's just a bad look. It's been a bad look this whole time. It's getting worse, frankly. Minor leaguers are literally working out right now. They're not getting paid to do it. There's just so much wrong with professional baseball right now that it's not funny.
One positive thing
Yeah.
come out of this weekend, it's the owners won't decrease the amount of minor league players this season.
There was that.
I mean, like, the way that it seems,
They
is
should have
that-
never pitched the idea in the first place. but-
Right. The way that it seems is that they're just gonna delay it until the future, which I mean doesn't really make a difference because it's gonna happen regardless.
Right.
But I mean that was the one positive. I mean, it is a positive that these sides are talking, but
It is.
I mean, we've been saying this all along. There's been no reason for these two sides to have not been meeting almost every single day, right? Or I mean, just multiple times a week, starting like mid-January. Hey, or I mean, like right after Christmas or whatnot. Like, just they could have taken time. Hey, celebrate with your family and
Right.
friends. That's fine. But the fact that they've made no progress since then is both sides' fault. And I mean, we all three of us are in agreement that we're pro players. The owners are more in the wrong here. But I mean, the players own some of this responsibility too. Because they said, hey, we want to talk. Like, we're going to go sit down and figure this out. Because at the end of the day, you benefit from having us play baseball, and we benefit from playing baseball under you guys.
Right.
That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
It's so obvious. But these two sides, they took
They
forever.
won't budge.
Now they're in a bad spot.
Now they got it.
I really don't know what this holds, but it's frustrating because they have moved on some places. The draft lottery has come down. It looks like there's either going to be top 5 or 6. I mean, I truly think 5 for a lottery is good because at that point you're giving some teams who don't deserve the first overall draft pick a chance. That's obviously the way the NBA draft works. Is that I mean the teams who finish nowhere close to that bottom have such a small chance that it doesn't make a big difference. But there's that. We're seeing the owners come up on their minimum offer for players who are yet to hit arbitration, so that's good. The Super Twos, that's kind of where some issues with the owners are coming in right now.
Mm-hmm.
But like Cole and Ryan both mentioned, the collective bargaining tax is where the real big differences are, and that's what's going to hold them up. And they have 5 days to figure it out.
And here's where it gets really bad, guys. They've waited this long to get anywhere at all. Now you have 5 days to not put together a CBA, but to rush a CBA together, which means there's probably going to be things, if this gets done, where it's going to be like, you're going to meet in the. It's going to be just quantity over quality kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You should have been using the time between December 1st and now to actually thoroughly go over these things, address the specifics. Now it's like, well, shoot, you're putting pressure on us both. We don't want to miss games. I can easily see them, actually bring a deal by Monday. Great, fine. but then like the integrity in the structure of the actual CBA is just in shambles because they didn't spend quality time piecing it together, which means the collective bargaining tax, which is super important, is probably going to be a mess if they figure it out. I mean, they could try and iron out some details going forward, but you see what I mean? Like now that there's a deadline right around the corner, 5 days from now, where they're like, we're missing games if we don't figure something out by this deadline. It's like, well, shoot, now we got to rush, and it just puts a wrench in everything.
It's been 2.5 months since the lockout occurred, and they've met maybe 10 times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I just realized all of that was muted on StreamYard. Wow. So basically, I'm going to say it again, but very short and sweet. The way that this was handled beginning is going to be the difference maker in whatever happens. Because, as I just said, it was kind of like me and my twin brother when we were 5, fighting. They didn't handle it maturely. They were too stubborn to get anything done and get contact going. And if that will be the reason why a deal does not get done by Monday. And the biggest thing, like we all have said, is that the CBT is where they are so far off. Everything else can get hammered out by Monday. I'm confident in that. Can the CBT get figured out? And I want to be optimistic, but I truly don't know because of how far off they are.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
But if we lose more baseball, I'm going to be so angry. You're not
going to want to talk to Ryan.
No, you're not, because one thing will set me
I don't
off
want
and
to
I'll lose
anyways.
it. I will tackle you.
You'll come tackle me through this glass for right now, Ryan.
I don't have the money to pay Blaze for that.
Do you?
No. Wait a sec.
Whoa. No. We're not going to mention that on the airwaves.
Okay, we're not going to. We are not going to.
Source?
But no, I am not in the mood to lose more baseball, okay?
No one is. Yeah.
Nobody wants it. If it happens, I'm going to be so mad.
There are 30 people on this planet who are more than willing to lose baseball.
Yeah, that's
which is
true.
ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely ridiculous. Do they realize they're losing money by doing that? I'm very curious to that.
Well, and one thing I saw, and it's from Bob Nightingale, so you got to take it with a grain of salt.
Exactly.
But Bob Nightingale said that if the owners reduce the players' payroll that they have already signed contracts for because the season is shortened, they can agree, or they can say, okay, you can do that, but by our contracts, we get to take away something from you, and they'll take away the expanded playoffs, which will cost the owners upwards of $100 million.
Hey, good tweet, Bob. Nice job.
Yeah, I don't know if that's true. Like I said, it is Bob Nightingale.
Yeah,
so
with a grain of salt.
This is Bob Nightingale.
No offense, Bob.
Yeah, you've had a sketchy past. You brought this upon yourself. But that's where we stand. Yeah. So, do we have anything else on labor talks, or should we get into our highly anticipated thing?
It is ridiculous that we don't have a deal. It is ridiculous. We should have a deal by now, and we better have a deal by Monday. Otherwise, I will be very angry the rest of the week and until they have a deal done, because we're going to lose baseball, and that does not settle well with me and any of you.
All right. Let's move in to our all-time rankings.
Sure.
Woo!
Do we want to start with first base or third base, guys?
Do first.
First base. First base.
All right. So what we decided that since there's still no baseball to be talking about, and we'll probably take a little bit of a pause, or we'll continue it throughout the season, because theoretically, once spring training starts coming and teams start actually building their rosters, we're gonna have to give standing predictions. We're gonna have to.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do all that.
We're gonna have
there will be timelier stuff to talk
about. There will be 30 to 40 minutes of actual baseball news to talk about. So we won't be able to do this as much. But figured we'd start all-time rankings. We have never done this on the show because you can really only do it once, and that's because we decided that we wanted to leave out all current players, go all old-time.
Yep.
Ryan,
I did forget at first, but I made the adjustments.
You did forget, but
yes, I did.
These lists, so many talented players who are certainly worthy of it.
This was tough, but it was really fun. I love going down Baseball Reference rabbit holes.
Yes.
I could spend days doing that. So
Uh-huh.
I consider today a productive day, even though that was probably the most, if not all of what I did.
See, now, if you were to ask my my Cronkite news directors, they would probably not consider my day for me a productive day.
Is that what you did all day, Dom?
No,
You
but
sure?
it was part of it.
You sure?
Making these
Yeah,
rankings.
you could spend a little time.
I'm not gonna lie. From
I
It's
promise
long day.
you, I promise you, I did not spend all day
It's-
making these rankings.
It's long days in the bureau. You gotta take some time for yourself.
Right.
I didn't do that today, and I think it drove me insane for a little bit. Once I got out of Cronkite News, I spent basically from 4:30 to 6:45 on these rankings, making sure I didn't miss much.
Right.
go.
I mean,
I dove deep into this stuff.
if you really want to see what I did in my if you really want to know what I did today in the bureau, you can I can talk about it later. But all right. Let's get into it.
Let's do
First
it.
base. Cole, unmute yourself and give us your number 5.
Okay, so honorable mentions first. This was really fun. I went over a bunch of stuff to sort of put my rankings together, but I also kind of went off of the impact and stuff like that as well. Honorable mentions: Cap Anson. I don't know if you guys came across that name. That dude played 27 years.
Yep.
In the dead ball era. He was nuts, but he's not on my top 5. David Ortiz is not in there. Willie McCovey is not in there. George Sisler, Eddie Murray, and Jeff Bagwell are not on my list, but they are honorable mentions. My number 5, regardless of what you may think about him, is Mark McGwire. And I put him at number 5, not even necessarily because of the career achievements, but because of how instrumental he was to a particular era.
Okay.
He is right up there with Barry Bonds as one of the headliners of this steroid era that, to be honest, guys, kind of revived baseball itself. The last strike, the 94 strike, was like the lowest point baseball has ever been at up until maybe now. And, McGuire's and Sosa's home run chase in 98, like, single-handedly revived baseball as we know it. It was a monumental, historic moment in the game's history. And the career numbers speak for itself, regardless of what you want to think about the guy. 583 career home runs is no small number, obviously. His career with the A's before he even got to St. Louis was also arguably Hall of Fame worthy. He had over 300 home runs as an Oakland A, and that was in 10 years. And he had a 154 OPS plus in that span. He had a career OPS plus of 163. He was a monster, Big Mac. So he's my number 5.
Yeah, Mark McGwire didn't make my list either. He would be an honorable mention.
So yeah, I did not have Mark McGwire on my list either. My number 5, though. Sorry, Dom, I'm going to skip ahead of you, even though I think that was the plan. I went with Eddie Murray, 287 average, 359 on base. He hit 504 homers. I had a lot of trouble with this, especially because at first I did put in 2 of the best all time in my rankings that are still currently playing. So yeah, that happened. But hey, we moved on. We got over it.
Yeah.
But 8-time All-Star, Rookie of the Year, 3-time Silver Slugger for the Orioles. And I just think that when you're looking at this, I think that with Mark McGwire, I kind of discounted him. I counted him out because of the steroids, because I just think it's, if we're going to do it for the Hall of Fame, I kind of felt like, yeah, I'm going to keep him off just because of that whole thing, kind of keep it consistent. So I'm going to go with Eddie Murray at my 5th spot.
Good defender, too.
Yeah, good
Eddie Murray
defender.
was a really
Yeah.
good defender.
Great defender. That's why I have Eddie Murray a little higher on my list. Big Eddie Murray guy, actually. Shout out Eddie Murray, also a switch hitter.
We love switch hitters.
My number 5 is Jeff Bagwell.
Okay. He didn't make my list.
He is 6th all-time in WAR, according to Baseball Reference, for all first basemen. He is a 1-time MVP winner, 3-time top 5 finisher, so, wasn't just a one-season wonder. 2,314 career hits, 449 home runs, 1,500 RBIs. He's just a stud. He raked. He was a part of a very solid core for the Astros for a long time and never really amounted to anything championship-wise. But he was a great player. Jeff Bagwell deserves some more love. Hall of Famer. I think everyone I have on my lists are Hall of Famers. If I'm going to take a brief look at that, yeah, they are. But Jeff Bagwell is my number 5 first baseman. So, Cole, who's your number 4?
Righty. So my number 4 is Frank Thomas, and sort of the anti to Mark McGwire. I feel like I had to put Frank above Mark because of what he accomplished, being overshadowed by a lot of the players in the steroid era. He arguably did just as good, if not better, than a lot of those guys, and he did it clean, which makes it that much more impressive. He has a career on base percentage of 419. I cannot get over how just nuts that is. He was an on base god. Whether he was getting walked or intentionally walked, you had to pitch around him because he was the big hurt. He was going to take it 400 plus feet. But yeah, this guy was nuts. It's crazy to think that he never led, the AL or even the league in like home runs. But then I remembered, he played in the steroid era and he did it clean. That kind of checks out.
Now he's on Nugenics.
Yeah. But just the sustained success he had, consistent 40, 35 plus homer seasons, 100 plus RBIs, hitting in not just the low 300s, but the hot, 330s, 340s. He was an all around great hitter. And, didn't play a whole lot of first base, but he played more first base than a guy like David Ortiz did in his career. I think it was 900 overall games or so at first, and then 1,300 at DH. Regardless of how you sliced it, he was a monster. He was the big hurt, so he's number 4 on my list.
Yeah, I have him at 4 too.
Yeah.
So
we have a clean sweep.
Look at that. There won't be a lot of that in the series. So let's
So I have him at number 4, and Cole, like I said, when I saw that career on base percentage, my jaw dropped.
Pretty nuts.
It is insane. And like you said, he was overshadowed in the steroid era and did this all clean. And he's hitting 30 plus homers. He's hitting 40 plus homers. He finished in the top 5 for MVP voting 6 times in his career.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. Clean too in that era.
Mm-hmm. That's what makes it that much more.
Exactly.
That's why I justified putting McGwire 5, is because I was like, I don't want to leave McGwire off my list. But that also means that I should put Frank ahead of him because of how much more impressed and how much more I take his contribution to that era, doing it without using, how I hold that much more higher. So I justify putting Mark 5 by putting Frank 4 because I truly believe that his accomplishments stood out more given how he was just as good, if not better, than most of those guys he did it without using.
I completely agree with you on that. So I do have Frank Thomas at 4 as well, so does Dom.
Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time on that just because we got to get into I don't want to cut ourselves off. No it's not. I think there's gonna be less this guy at 1, we're DeGrom's 1, but we don't need to talk about it because he's good. Okay, so I'll lead off with my number 3. My number 3 first baseman is the double X, Jimmy Fox. Jimmy Fox, all-time great. He also played against plumbers. And as we were talking a lot about baseball today in the Sports Bureau, and Gareth, they were talking about top 10 baseball players, and I think it was Michael that led off with Babe Ruth, and I'm like, Babe Ruth's probably a top 10 baseball player of all time. And apparently, apparently that is a hot take. I get it. Babe Ruth played against Mickey Mouse Major League Baseball players, but the numbers he put up. Anyways, Jimmy Fox, really old baseball player, but the numbers this guy put up were insane. He was so good. 2,646 career hits, 534 home runs. So I got a lot of hits, got a lot of home runs. He is 3rd all time in first baseman WAR and 92.3. So very impressive overall career from the double X. He also played catcher, 325 career hitter.
I was going to say
600 career slugging percentage. Hello guys. 428 career on base percentage. He was in a league of his own back then, but he didn't play only first base. So I decided to put him at 3. The guy I have in front of him might be a little controversial, but that's fine. I'm a big believer in that guy. Let's toss it back to Cole. Who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Harmon Killebrew, the
I thought
killer.
about Harmon. The Major League Baseball logo, in case people did not know that.
Yeah, exactly. That's, I mean, he's iconic for that, obviously. But when I think of power hitting, first baseman, there's a very short list, and maybe it's just me, but Harmon Killebrew is like the big bruising, power hitting first baseman, the guy who comes up to the plate and you're like, oh God, here we go. Take an extra 3 or 4, 5 steps back. That's most of the guys on this list, obviously, but
Yeah.
Harmon Killebrew is just, first off, that's an all-time baseball name. In my opinion, the guy led the league in homers 6 times, 573 career home
Crazy.
runs. Average, wasn't really there. But again, this guy was a power hitter. He was a tried and true power hitter. He was the epitome of I'm going to go up to the plate. I'm going to look to do damage. And he did that from 1954 through 1975. This guy was ridiculous. 1,500 career RBIs. He was great. He had like over 60 WAR, so he's not really up there when it comes to all-time WAR with first baseman, but it didn't matter. Like I think his impact and just the prototypical nature of that position, he helped define it. And one time, he won the MVP. I think he's deserving of being on this list. He's a 13-time All-Star as well, if you want to throw that in there. So I have him at number 3.
All right, my number 3, Johnny Mize. And let me explain why. This man in his career 9 times hit over 300. And he did not play from 1943 to 45 because he went and served in the military. Comes back, and in his second year back from serving in the military, puts up 51 homers and 138 RBIs. The next season follows it up by, he didn't hit 300. He hit 289 with 40 homers and 125 RBIs. You mentioned how all the guys on this list are guys that you see him come up to the plate, you're taking steps back, and you're probably playing near the wall, if not at the wall. So Johnny Mize, he only played 15 years, but the stats say it for themselves. They do the talking here. And yet he did not win an MVP, but he's still a 10-time All-Star, won a batting title, 5-time World Series champ. Such a great power hitter. Got to give him the nod.
I didn't really consider putting Mize on here.
I looked at Johnny Mize, and again, I spent a lot of time on this, and I debated putting a lot of different guys in my top 5 that I didn't. I'm looking at a guy right now who I probably should have put in there, but I like that pick. I like that pick to put in your top 5. For sure.
There you go. Those were our number 3 first baseman. Now moving on to number 2. I guess I'll start it off.
Yes, Don.
Eddie Murray. I love me some Eddie Murray. This dude was a killer.
He's a gamer.
500 home run club.
Yep.
He hit bombs. And then he also had 3,255 hits. Outside of that, he doesn't put up like season by season great numbers, but also 3-time Gold Glove. He won a World Series with the Orioles. I just think that Eddie Murray deserves more respect. He had a 5-year stretch where he got in the top 5 MVP all 5 years. Was MVP runner-up in 1982, which was the year before the Orioles won the World Series. His prime directly was right when the Orioles were peaking in terms of their franchise. So I think that Eddie Murray deserves a little bit more respect. Shout out to the Orioles, because the Orioles get no love, especially now because, well, quite frankly, they don't deserve any.
Yeah.
But Eddie Murray, I have him at number 2, which is kind of surprising because he's 16th all time in the first baseman war.
Yeah, I don't know.
My number 2 is Jimmy Fox. The dude played 3 different positions, primarily first base, and was pretty ridiculous. 3-time MVP, career OPS that starts with 1 dot. You heard that right. 1.038. That's nuts when that's your career OPS. Seasons of 58, 48, 36, and 35 home runs led the league in those respective years. He was an RBI machine. I think if not, he's definitely all time somewhere up there, like in the top 10, I would think, in RBIs. He was nuts. Like you said, Dom, the competition back then was nowhere close to what it is now, but it's always growing. And back then, that was probably insane competition for those guys. And I mean, given what he did, that's still very, very impressive. So yeah, he's definitely my number 2.
I agree. I have Jimmy Fox, and Dom, you said it when you had him at 5. No, 3. Sorry, you had him at 3. My bad. I know. And then Cole, you said it. 3-time MVP, hit for the Triple Crown, 9-time All-Star. But look at the numbers, guys. 175 RBIs, 169, 163. Who does that? And you know what? You could say the competition, but for that era, for him, that's tough competition. And look what he did. The career OPS also made my jaw drop. 1.038.
Yeah, dude's
That's
good.
ridiculous.
MLB The Show.
Yeah,
by
I
the
was
way.
just
MLB
about
The
to
Show
say.
numbers. Exactly.
Well, no, I mean that wasn't what I was saying.
His Diamond Dynasty card is.
Yeah, because you can put him at catcher.
Jeez.
He would be number 1 on this list if we were doing it on that.
Yeah, secondary positions applicable.
But what he did was ridiculous. So I got to have him top 2.
There you go. And number 1 first baseman.
I think we're unanimous.
I'd assume we
I
are.
would hope.
It's gonna be Sweet Lou Gehrig,
Yes,
the
sir.
Second most all-time consecutive games played, only behind Cal Ripken Jr.
Yes, sir.
Lou Gehrig. I mean, I'll just rattle off some of his numbers. Number 1 in first baseman WAR by almost 15 WAR over Albert Pujols, who's still playing at this point. So I guess that number could be decreased.
Yeah.
He had 2,721 career hits, 493 career home runs, almost 2,000 career RBIs, 100 stolen bases, 340 career batting average, which is nuts. 440,
Triple Crown winner.
yeah,
Crown winner,
447 OBP, 632 slug. Keep in mind, all these numbers could have been better had he not developed ALS and had to retire early, which is
Very
what
true.
ultimately
Very true.
ended up ruining his streak. Yeah, Cole mentioned 1934 Triple Crown winner.
Yep.
He didn't even win the MVP that year.
No,
Which is ridiculous.
Well, let's look at who won the MVP that year. But he won 2 other MVPs, which is pretty astonishing.
2-time MVP. But that OPS, guys, 1.080. We thought Jimmy Fox's was ridiculous. Gosh.
Dude, pretty dang good.
Who are these guys?
Yeah. It's honestly a crime
What?
that he developed ALS, because imagine what he could have done with additional years in the league.
Yeah, I mean, he was 36 the
Yeah.
final year he played. He didn't even really register that many games.
I think he only played like 10 games or
Okay.
something.
He played 8 games in 1939. It was his final year.
Lou Gehrig not winning MVP this year is a complete travesty.
I was gonna say it doesn't feel right that he wins the Triple Crown. He's one of like a handful of Triple Crown winners, and
And he does it with the MVP?
Yeah, here
Yeah.
I'll read you the stat lines of these guys that won the Triple
Please
Crown.
do so. I'm very curious.
1934 MVP 1934 MVP winner Nicky Cochran.
Okay.
320 batting average, 428 OBP. Keep in mind both lower. 412 slug. In only 129 games. He had 4.5 WAR compared to Gehrig's 10.1.
Oh.
Second place, Charlie Gehringer, who got 8.8 WAR. Very good season. 356 batting average, 450
Okay.
OBP, 517 slug. Once again, all lower than Gehrig.
Yeah.
Well, of course, because he won Triple Crown.
Some corruption with the NWA back then, if that was even a thing.
Yeah, that still is.
Yeah.
Number 3 was Lefty. It says Gomez, but I'm pretty sure his name is Lefty Grove. Maybe that's a
I
different
think
player.
Lefty Gomez was another guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways,
Kind of criminal.
pitcher
Yeah.
and hitter.
Crime.
He had a
Robbery.
2.33 ERA that year, 1.33 WHIP, and 281 innings. Only had 158 strikeouts. I sent some BS here. And then
Robbery.
fourth, Schoolboy Rowe. Not,
Oh.
I never heard of that guy.
Neither have I.
That's a baseball name.
That is
Sure.
that
but
is 100%
A
baseball.
pitcher, 6.9 WAR, 3.45 ERA, in 266 innings. So
Point noted.
Lou Gehrig should have won MVP that year. All right. Anything anyone else wants
Final
to say about
thoughts.
Lou
A
Gehrig?
guy did not. Well, I mean, outside of Lou Gehrig, undisputed number 1. Final thoughts. A guy I did not put on this list. Rafael Palmeiro had an insane career, and I mean, leaving him off this list feels a little weird. But I mean,
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
The 1,200 or the 12,000 career plate appearances is pretty wild.
It's crazy.
But 569 career home runs. I mean, he was more of a a quantity over quality kind of guy.
Yeah, true.
But I mean, still great career. You're 100% right. No Jim Thome from any of us. And then our Pujols would absolutely be on my list, probably at number 2.
I think you would be on all of our lists. To be quite honest.
Yeah.
Miguel Cabrera, Joey
Yep.
Votto would maybe crack a list or two, but that's our top 5 first baseman. Let's move on over to third baseman as we have just a little bit over 15 minutes to go.
Yep.
I'll get us started here with my number 5 third baseman, and that is going to be Brooks Robinson of the Baltimore Orioles, the greatest defensive third baseman of all time, currently being challenged, I will say. But Brooks Robinson, although he was an elite fielder, was also a great hitter. 2,848 career hits. He had 268 career home runs. Not a power hitter, but a contact hitter nonetheless. Just a fantastic career. He won an MVP, 5 top 5 MVPs. He's fantastic. I put him at number 5, and it was so hard to rank him because it's kind of hard to measure how good his glove was, but compared to like some of these other guys with his bat, because the other guys are elite hitters, he's not quite there, but his best defensive third baseman of all time.
Yeah. I
Also have Brooks number 5. And I honestly think he's not even the greatest defender of all, or third baseman of all, defensive third baseman of all time. I can't talk.
So saying Arenado?
No, I'm actually gonna say he's just the greatest defender in general
Okay.
of all time.
All right.
Okay.
I was trying to word that, and obviously, as you could tell, it did not go well at all. The delivery was pretty bad. Yeah, I mean, looking at this guy's D-WAR just alone, 39.1 as a defensive WAR, 39.1. That's very hard to accrue. Like, you have to be that guy at your position, and he was that guy. His defense alone at a position that demands it so much constantly, and I think a lot of defenders, especially nowadays, sort of, are a little bit, not as they're a little bit lackadaisical with it. They're a lot more invested with the bat, as you should be. But that's a position that demands the best out of you defensively. And he was a marksman over there. Nothing really, you couldn't really get anything by him. Great arm. Yes, he could swing the bat too. I mean, the closest thing we really have to this guy now is Nolan Arenado. And I mean, you see how that guy plays defense.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, he's pretty nuts. I had to put him. It was criminal. It would have been criminal for me to leave him off this list, given how much I love and how much I invest in defense, especially at third base. I think that is a position you need to just be staunch at defensively if all else fails. And I mean, it would be criminal and pretty off-brand if I left him off my list. So he's definitely number 5.
You guys will see him later on my list. My number 5 is Chipper Jones. And I'm going to lead this off by saying my favorite Chipper Jones fact. I told Dom this earlier. Oh, wait, it's a cool fact. Okay, shut up. Chipper Jones in 2012 had not played at one stadium in his career, and it was Kauffman Stadium. He reached that feat by playing in every MLB stadium in the 2012 All-Star Game at Kauffman Stadium. So that is my cool fact about Chipper Jones. Call it lame. I don't care. Dom, you're just a loser, okay?
How much digging did you have to do to find that out?
Actually, I've known that for quite a while.
Oh, okay.
I've known that for quite a while. So I didn't actually do any digging on that today.
Hey, please tell us about Chipper Jones.
Yes. MVP.
That was his
eight-time
argument.
All-Star. Chipper Jones, 303 career average, 930 OPS. In his career, I think that looking at in our lives of what we were able to watch, I think Chipper Jones is the best third baseman we've ever laid our eyes on, even though we were younger. But I think just the resume says it all.
He's definitely one of, if not the best switch hitter of our generation.
Oh, definitely.
I will say.
Definitely.
That's
And as a switch hitter, he hit over 20 home runs in his first 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm sorry, I'm not good at math. From 1995 to 2008. So his first 14 years, if I'm right, something like that. That's ridiculous because switch hitters, they're not really known for their power that much. They're more contact guys getting on base. And Chipper Jones had the power too. Had over 100 RBIs in, I believe, 8 straight seasons. He did it all, and the face of the Braves organization for years. So Chipper Jones definitely is a top 5 third baseman of all time.
Yeah, I have Chipper a little bit higher up on my list.
And I respect that 100%.
I'm going to jump in. My number 4 is going to be Eddie Matthews, former Boston Braves third baseman. Yes, you heard me right. Boston Braves.
Boston Braves.
And Milwaukee
Yeah, and
Braves.
Milwaukee
Yeah,
Braves,
more Milwaukee actually.
Yeah.
But he was a Boston Brave, which is cool. 1952. Eddie Matthews, great power hitting third base. MLB The Show, this goon.
Yes. I was gonna say.
So is Chipper, but Chipper's more for the upward elites of MLB The Show.
Yep.
You always have to do something cool. To get
Eddie's for the budget squad.
Exactly. Eddie Matthews,
Budget squad.
second in third base all-time career WAR. So I held that a little bit. He never won an MVP. That's why I kind of have him down here. Was never the greatest player per se in any given season, but fantastic career. 271 batting average, 376 OBP, 509 slug. It's a 143 OPS plus. I mean, the 96 career WAR really stands for himself. Model of consistency. I have Eddie Matthews at 4.
Yeah, I also have Chipper at 4. I would have put him higher, just because unlike pretty much all these guys on this list, I actually got to watch him play a little bit, and so I do hold that in a little bit of regard. Regardless, I mean he's definitely top 5. One of the greatest switch hitters ever. Could do it with power from both sides. Could do it with average, like you said. 303 career hitter, 364 clip in 08. That's pretty daunting with a 470 on base. That's actually nuts. Yeah, he was great. I mean, and he was sort of the headliner for the Braves for basically 2 decades. Definitely one of the faces of baseball for that period of time as well. 8-time All-Star, World Series champion, won the batting title that year I previously mentioned when he hit 364. I mean, come on. Career OPS plus of 141. This guy did it all. He was great. Definitely warrants being top 5. I will quickly, because I didn't mention my honorable mentions because I just kind of glossed over it. I do not have Adrian Beltre, Eddie Matthews, Paul Molitor, or Edgar Martinez, who, yes, actually was a third baseman for a little bit, on my list.
Okay. Yeah, my main honorable mention was Adrian Beltre. So my number 4 is also Eddie Matthews. Dom, you hammered it home. I'm not going to say much, but what he did in his career, you examined it perfectly. Model of consistency. And then I'll go into my 3. This is where I have Brooks Robinson. You guys know I am huge on defense. And defense is so crucial at third base. They call it the hot corner for a reason. And that man, 16 Gold Gloves, guys. That's ridiculous. And Cole, I'm going to agree with you. The greatest fielder ever. I will definitely agree with you on that. And, the hitting wasn't always there, but he had years where he had over 100 RBIs. He hit for 25 plus homers, but the fielding itself, I think, warrants him being top 3, but it's because I warrant fielding so much, especially for how crucial it is at that position. So Brooks Robinson's my 3.
Yeah, in a little over 9,000 career, fielding chances, he only made 263 errors.
That's ridiculous.
Like that may sound like a lot, but that is actually like nothing.
Yeah, that's
especially at third base.
Yeah, exactly.
And like errors are
pretty subjective.
Yeah, subjective,
like,
right?
It's up to the scorekeeper's general. Yeah. Like he could have made way less than that, honestly.
And scorekeepers hold those guys to higher regards. That's why some people say that Matt Chapman's like over criticized on errors because scorekeepers hold him to a higher regard, which he deserves. But
he's expected to make plays that a normal defender does not.
Yeah. Exactly.
But also, I think the craziest thing is we talk about consistency. 16 straight years with a Gold Glove. 16 straight. Also an 18-time All-Star. I don't know what else I have to say.
He's nuts.
Yeah, for sure.
Yep. I'm going to put Chipper Jones here at number 3 for me.
Okay. Yeah.
Chipper, I think he's the best switch hitter of all time. Him and Eddie Murray are probably 1 and 2. They are legends. And Chipper, he raked. I mean, no other way around it. Won an MVP in 1999. Fantastic. So many top 10 in MVPs, but never really finished top 5 in MVP voting, which is kind of weird. 1996 was his only really exception. But fantastic 303 career batting average, like you guys mentioned. 529 slug, 141 career OPS plus. Chipper's a legend, man. Also won a batting title. Was kind of the staple of the Braves franchise in terms of batting.
Yeah.
Obviously, they had the big 3 pitching, but he was the glue that held them together out on the field or in the lineup. Really, is where it was. But until Andrew Jones came along, but Chipper Jones, got him at number 3. Cole, who's your number 3? And then we'll go to Ryan for 2.
My number 3 is George Brett. I have him top 3. I just don't have him top 2. You'll see why.
I understand why. I can already tell you I understand why.
Yeah, I mean, regardless, he's one of the greatest hitters ever. 3,000 hits on his career. That speaks for itself, as it should. Won the batting title 3 times, 13-time All-Star, won an MVP. He's a World Series champion. This guy was great. And it's warranted that he's top 3. There's not many guys who will ever be as good as he was. He had years where he hit nearly 400 in an era in eras where that was harder. That became harder and harder to do. So that's what makes it so impressive. Consistent hitter in the 300s, career 305 hitter. Wasn't the greatest defensively. Didn't need to be. The bat compensated for it.
He was a terrible fielder. Let's be honest.
He was an extra bases guy. He had 20 triples and 42 doubles and 23 homers in 1979. I'm not gonna really try and do the math, but that's like 80 some extra base hits. That's insane. Extra base hit machine, hit for power, defined. He's the face of the Royals. I mean, I think he will be for a very, very long time. He's number 3 for sure.
Yeah, number 2 for me is George Brett. And here's the thing, Cole, you said it. He's going to be the face of the Royals for a long time, and who knows if anyone will ever eclipse him. Let's be honest.
Yeah, Bobby Witt.
He might.
Salvi, if he stays at the pace where he was at, might get somewhere close, but he will not pass him. I said somewhat close.
I don't think
he will. I don't think he will either. But if he were to somehow keep this production up that he's had, he would have maybe a slight argument to be anywhere close. But I don't think he will. I seriously don't think someone will pass George Brett unless Bobby Witt is way more than one.
Bobby Witt is that guy.
And what I would say,
hope he is as Royals fans.
What I always say is, we don't want to tarnish their legacy before these guys get to the big leagues, but those guys for their franchise want to see that because they know that if that happens, there's going to be some success to their franchise. And not a shot at the Royals. They haven't been all that successful since George Brett retired. They have a World Series ring. More successful than the Padres.
Glad you said it. You knew I was about to say it.
Right. If Tony Gwynn was yes, I want Fernando to be so good. That way, the Padres can win a championship.
Yeah.
And it's not just respecting their legacy. I'm sure they want it.
Yeah.
Anyways, Ryan, you're number 2. We got
is George Brett. I need to say one thing. Just one thing. Look at 1980. 390 batting average, 454 on base, 664 slugging, 1.118 OPS, 203 OPS. George Brett, I think, will forever be the greatest Royal of all time. Whenever you say Royals, the first person that comes to your head is George Brett.
Bo Jackson.
So
all-time temper.
Oh yeah. The Pine Tar, of course. And the reason why he's not number 1 is because he was a terrible fielder. He was a terrible fielder, and I'm 100% happy to admit it. Because he didn't need to be a good fielder, like you said, Cole.
Yeah, and I have George Brett here, number 2, and I'm surprised neither of you guys said this. There is one player in Major League history to win a batting title in 3 decades, and his name is George Brett.
Hey, I'm learning this here first. Actually.
Oh,
I probably should have looked through it a little bit, but
1976, 1980, and 1990. Wow. It's amazing that there was a 10-year gap between his batting titles. Not Tony Gwynn, I mean, Tony would only play. I mean, he played in 3 decades, but his tenure in the 2000s
crazy
was
what he
short.
did.
Cole, I assume you have Wade Boggs in number 2, who Ryan and I did not have.
I do, and here's
That was another one of my honorable mentions.
I do, and here's why I have him number 2. He was a hit machine, and he was a slightly better defender than George Brett was, and I think I hold him a little higher in that regard because he did what George Brett was really good at, plus the defense.
Yep.
And he had 7 consecutive years of 200+ hits. 1985, he had 240 hits. He hit 368 that year. Wasn't a power hitter, but I mean, 51 doubles in 1989. He was a gap-to-gap guy. Nearly hit, there's not a single year. He hit 300. He played 18 years in the big leagues. He hit over 300 in 16 of those years.
It's insane.
He was phenomenal, and he didn't need to have the slug. He was just a phenomenal hitter. So he's number 2. Do you want me to say my number 1?
We'll have Ryan say number 1, then I'll take us out because we all have Mike Schmidt.
Yeah.
Mike Schmidt is number 1, and it's because mainly for me, his fielding was better than his hitting, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. And this is a guy who he had over 2,000 hits, over 500 home runs.
My reason is he's got an all-time mustache. Like
facts.
Like he's,
okay,
he's number 1 mustache.
Okay, you have an argument there as well.
Ryan, you have 10 seconds to talk about Mike Schmidt.
Oh, you want me to do it? 10-time Gold Glover, man.
Yeah.
What he was able to do in the field was incredible.
Great
What
defender.
he could do, he could hit pretty well too. He could hit for home runs a lot as well, but that defense is really nearly unparalleled other than Brooks Robinson.
Yep, there you have it. That was our those were our top 5s. Look forward to talking about this next week, no matter what happens with labor deals.
Yes, sir.
We'll go with middle. We'll go with middle infield. Thank you all for tuning in to Golden Sombrero Show, whether you're on YouTube or BlazeRayOnline.com. Thank you all, and Dominic Stern, Cole Bradley, and Ryan Blank will join you next week.